Hello everybody, welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. We are beginning a series where my wife and I, who have been nomads for years now, are sharing with you what we would do if we restarted. Essentially, we were online and we were looking at all these really expensive, multiple six-figure rigs out there that people have, and we said, well, you can do it for a lot cheaper, and we are just gonna hit the reset button. We sold our rig and we are embarking on a new journey, documenting it here on YouTube, exactly what we're doing to purchase, to build out, and to get on the road with a new rig, and putting ourselves in a situation that many of you might relate to. Right now we're renting our friend's fifth wheel from them, but we're getting an apartment soon where it's okay to build out in the backyard. And we're right now looking for our next vehicle to go ahead and convert. So I'm gonna walk you through in this video our process on how we actually search for vehicles to build out, and what types of things we're looking for in case maybe you're in this same situation. Now, a little disclaimer, what works for us might not be, what's optimal for you. So, this isn't necessarily a series of a tutorial or anything like that. It's just, if I was restarting, and we are, how would I do things with all of the knowledge that I have of years of experience of being a nomad? And when I say being a nomad, there's a lot of people that travel full-time out of, backpacking, and I've done that. But this is specifically like a van life type thing. Like, you are going to purchase a vehicle and build it out in a way that's comfortable for you and live in that vehicle. That's what this series is all about, more like nomadic vehicle dwelling. And we're just taking you along on that journey. So let's get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and look at a few rigs with you and kind of analyze them and give you my thoughts as a full-time nomad. We of course have our espresso setup going. Susanna just made smoothies. This is a little sneak peek. This is actually the electrical system that we're using in the next build. And I have built electrical systems from scratch before, and it's been amazing. But this is kind of a series on like what's going to be easiest for people to do and what's going to be optimal. Sometimes for your average person, designing, building, and installing a custom electrical system is going to be pretty daunting. So we'll get into that in another video, why I chose this system here and what that system is. And but for now, this is a video focusing on how to pick out a rig. So for this section, I want to help ask you a few questions that will determine what kind of rig is going to be best for you. And I already know these answers for myself, but just to kind of talk through this with you. So the first question is, how much space do you need? When I was single and living this lifestyle before I had met my wife, I was living out of a Prius, and that was really cool. I was really mobile. I got great fuel economy, but there wasn't enough room for me to clearly stand up or for me to even cook inside. And before I was even married, I was already transitioning to a cargo van, a Ram ProMaster at the time. So you have to think about how much space you're actually going to need. Starting smaller is nice. And a common theme throughout my videos that I recommend people do is go ahead and once you think that you've figured it out, go on, there's a website called outdoorsy.com. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but they are a good resource website if you want to rent a vehicle to try this out first. So if you think that a van is going to be enough space for you, go on Outdoorsy and rent somebody's van that they've already converted, and just go for a weekend or go for a week trip or something like that. And yeah, you'll spend more money up front by renting these rigs out, but in the long run, it'll be cheaper than buying something you hate and then having to sell it, just because of the savings of your time. So that's question number one. How much space do you need? Question number 2, are you mechanically inclined? If you are mechanically inclined, then you might be able to get away with purchasing an older vehicle that might need some work from time to time. If you're not mechanically inclined, then you might be looking for something more along the lines of brand new with a warranty, or you might purchase an extended warranty or something. The vehicles that I look for personally, even though I am mechanically inclined, I don't necessarily have all of my tools with me that I would like to have to fix vehicles on the road, because I am in a limited space and I kind of prioritize like my carpentry tools in case something breaks with the camper wise. So I purchase vehicles that can be serviced at most automotive shops. So stuff like your Ford Econoline van basis, chassis. There are a lot of mechanics that can work on that. The Chevy Express cutaways, a lot of mechanics that can work on that. I have found with when I owned my Ram ProMaster, I thought, I can just take this into any Ram dealership and they can take care of me. That is not the case. I found out with that vehicle, number one, a lot of people don't like working on those, myself included. The clearances are very tight to work on those. It's really annoying. Number two, in order for a Ram dealership to actually work on a Ram ProMaster, which you would assume all of them could, but they have to have a special lift in their shop in order to accommodate that. So meanwhile, I go to a Ram dealership and they don't have that lift, and it's a Ram ProMaster at a Ram dealership. They can't even work on it. So that's a big problem. You're going to have to look into whichever vehicle you're looking at and make sure that it's something that is going to be sustainably serviced on the road. Some rigs that I've gotten can fit into a Jiffy Lube, to get the oil changed, really convenient. And some rigs are too tall or too long or whatever to fit inside of a Jiffy Lube to get the oil changed. So you have to weigh out your mechanical ability versus mechanical availability when you're looking at a rig. All right, so the third question would be, what are you willing to spend on it? That's kind of self-explanatory. You're going to have to find a vehicle that's within your budget. Some of these vehicles qualify for financing, and some of them are considered commercial vehicles and don't qualify for financing. The fourth question that I want to bring up is, what are you comfortable driving? Now, you might say that, hey, I need all of this room, I need all this space. But at the end of the day, if you're not comfortable driving a bigger vehicle, then you're going to have some challenges. When I had, our last rig was a truck, Ram 3500 Cummins with a truck bed camper on the back. And when I first started driving it, I hated it. It was like, it felt top heavy to me. I had to go slower because of how high the weight was centered and stuff. And, that was fine, but I was not comfortable at first. I got used to it though, and I got comfortable. But for somebody who's just scared to death of driving like a Sprinter van and then gets into, a truck and truck bed camper, it's going to be an issue. You'll notice on this channel, we don't really talk about tow behind units, and there's a reason for that. On the East Coast especially, and even some places on the West Coast, you could go down a back country road or something, and you can have an amazing tow behind vehicle or tow behind trailer. But at the end of the day, you might go down, and we've encountered this before, a gate in the road that's not supposed to have a gate on it that you're on, and now you have to back up a significant distance. So it would just be a nightmare to have to back a trailer up off a road. We've gotten stuck just backing our rig up before, and back tires got off of the hard pack and whatnot. So that's another thing to consider. Not just, we don't fool around too much with tow behinds. I'm not diametrically opposed to it, but it would just add a lot more stress onto the situation. So getting back to how big of a rig are you willing to drive? A Ram ProMaster or a Sprinter van is pretty narrow, all things considered, and you can stay in your lane a lot better than if you're driving a box truck or even a Class C RV. Your footprint on the road is a lot wider, so then it's a lot more challenging to actually physically stay in your lane because you don't have as much clearance on both sides. Length is a big issue because when you go to park in just a regular parking lot, if you're longer than a regular parking space, significantly longer, then you're going to have to hunt for either a spot where you can back in and have the back of your rig overhanging over like a ditch or something, or you're going to have a pull through spot and have to take up 2 or 3 spots. Now, not all the areas that you want to go to, like maybe some of the cities that you want to visit and whatnot, they might not have a lot of spots like that. I think of when we love to visit Washington, D.C. We think it's beautiful to go see all the monuments and stuff. It is not big rig friendly in Washington, D.C. It's hard to find parking. So that's just one thing you have to consider. If you're going to be just out on BLM land in the middle of Arizona, it probably doesn't really matter to you how long your rig is and how easy it is to park. But for somebody that wants to do a mix of BLM land, forest driving, because like I said, sometimes you have to back up on forest roads and whatnot, and somebody who wants to park in city, stealth parking type situation, you're going to have completely different rigs. So now that I've asked all of those questions and put those in your mind, I'm going to show you the rig that we have come up with. So this is the vehicle that, after all of our years of nomadic living and after all the vehicles that we have looked at, this is the vehicle that we have settled on. So not really that fancy at editing, so I have to kind of show you on my phone. But as you can see, it's a Chevy Express van chassis, and it's got the side door. It's also got a roll-up door on the back, which I would prefer to have a door that opens, so that way I don't have to fool around with a roll-up door. But essentially, these vehicles are used for parcel delivery. So companies like FedEx will buy these vehicles, and then they'll retire them after a certain point. You do have to be careful buying these vehicles because of the nature of FedEx. It's a lot of stop and go. And that's more wearing on the transmission and the engine than if they were just used for highway use. So we are right now looking for a low mileage ex-FedEx van, and with it having that side door and the interior steps. Okay, I'll go into this a little bit. We have friends that have box trucks, and they have to have stairs on the outside of their box truck, sort of like what we had on the camper, where you pull out these stairs. Now, that's all fine and dandy, except I've found that it's so much more convenient to have stairs built in. Our school bus, and if you've ever ridden on a school bus before, you'd understand what I'm saying here. It had stairs that were kind of like built into the chassis that when you open the door, you just walk up the stairs. That's what these FedEx vans actually have. They have the door already installed, and they have the stairs already installed, so that way you don't have to take them out at each campsite you go to. The downside of having the stairs built in is that you have lower ground clearance. So again, this gets into what's right for you and what's not. If you're the type that wants to go really far off, like off-roading trails, you're probably not going to be buying a FedEx truck. And we, our last rig was a 4-wheel drive, high clearance vehicle, Ram 3500 with a truck bed camper on it. And we really enjoyed going out there to places that other people might not necessarily get to as easily. And so there is like this massive trade-off that, again, another question is, do you need four-wheel drive? If you need four-wheel drive, this van is not for you. Although there are companies out there that can convert vans to four-wheel drive, so it's not necessarily a deal breaker. But when you're looking at these like Chevy Express, GMC Savannah, even the Ford Econoline chassis, it gets back to like just so many mechanics can work on them. It's going to be a lot easier to find parts, people to work on them. Probably pretty easy to find video tutorials too, I would imagine, although I haven't really looked it up for it. But there's going to be resources for these. There's going to be resources for sprinters and for Ram Pro Masters and stuff too, don't get me wrong. But these are just so much more popular because this chassis is used in like the FedEx trucks, it's used in box trucks, it's used in just regular cargo vans, it's used in RVs. This chassis is used in so many different applications that you have so many people that own these, so that the more people that own a vehicle, the more readily available the parts are. That's why it's going to be easier to find parts for a Toyota Camry than it is for a Volkswagen bus. Just more people own Camrys and Volkswagen buses, therefore there's going to be more parts for them. So just things to think about. And I want to know, after asking all of these questions to yourself, what is the perfect rig for you? Go ahead and leave your comment down in the comment section below. And if you have any questions, anything that you think that I'm missing that I should do a video on as part of this series, please let me know that as well. And we're just starting the series, so we have a pretty flexible schedule on it. Anyways, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.